Hello, America, and to our friends around the world, greetings and welcome back. This is the continuation of finding the similarities in Northern European languages, in this case, Dutch and English. Wat is was je vroeg moise gesagt? Wat is was je vroeg moise gesagt? Wat is was je vroeg moise gesagt? Wat? What is what is wrong? Take a look at this first line, the first question in quotes. What? And it most likely when you read it in the storybook or in any other text, you most likely associated what as what. And of course, is. Everybody from the 90s remembers President Clinton making a big deal about defining the word is. And apparently it's universal to Northern European languages such as Dutch. So, what is? The next one isn't so much a direct similarity in terms of sound, but it is a similarity in terms of aha, a mistake, an error, something's wrong. What is error? Error, error, as in error, wrong, and error. So, what is error? Vroeg Moisier. Well, we know that Moisier is the little mouse. Zacht, softly, soft. So focus on these similarities. If you have a sentence that has a word, if it takes you to have to write it out, what you're reading, that's okay. There is something called autodidactic memory. By the doing the action of writing it down creates I'm not certain if this is accurate, but it's almost as if there's a muscle memory in the sense of doing the action. It doesn't happen so much with typing as it does with actual writing, pencil to paper, pen to paper, where you're writing the word and then you're able to write these associations that create memory flashcards in a way. So, what is er? What is wrong? And then we come into the next page. Ik ben verwald. Snitke Vozier, ik kan mijn familie niet vinden. Ik ben verwald. Snitke Vozier, ik kan mijn familie niet vinden. I am lost, sobbed Little Fox. I can't find my family. This isn't so much a obvious, connection until you start recognizing it in what you're reading and what you're hearing in conversation. And that is the pronoun ik being the same as I, I, possessive pronoun. Yeah, so if you read ik, it's the person speaking is describing themselves. And bien is similar to the word being. So, how familiar you are with English grammar does have some advantages. There was a book I read 15 years ago that had been recommended to me because, why this person bought it, I don't know, but it has that catchy title of Kama Sutra, a play on the Indian Kama Sutra. Yeah, but in this case, it was a 300-page book on English grammar, and they talk about certain things, such as word similarities in terms of English, what they represent, how they change, and why, and so forth. But without getting into the detail of the book, am and being are similar words. They're just obviously spelled differently and sound differently. So I am lost, I being lost. The next word that I want to go over is verdevalt. Right off the bat, verdevalt doesn't seem intuitive until you break it down into base components. In English, we take it for granted. Our language is heavily built up with multi-consonant, multi-syllable sentence structure. And this is going to take a segue. But if you take, for example, the Egyptian name Tutankhamun, people think it's King Tut, all right, King Tutankhamun, and the difficulty with pronunciation for a lot of people with foreign languages is you want to read it directly as it's written, and there's phonetics that are involved that don't make sense until you break them down into their component syllables. Without getting into the weeds, Tutankhamun is three words put together: Tut, Kam, Amen. So the same thing is here. Verd. So if I take the word verdwald, ver is very similar to the English word where, defining location, and wald, world, where world. Ik ben verwold, I being where in the world. So your brain can make that association of being lost. And then finally, the last line, can. And phonetically in the pronunciation with Dutch, mijn family. That to me that is very direct. My family. And finally, neat. And this is where the sentence structure, going back to that book Kama Sutra for that was dealing with English, comes in to play. This sentence structure is a bit backwards. It opens with can and ends with not. So cannot my family. Voisie keek vosje aan een zee, maak je geen zorgen, ik zal je helpen om je family to vinden. Little Mouse looked at Little Fox and said, "Don't worry, I will help you find your family." We already know Mosier is mouse, cake. I'm not certain of a direct translation to English that would make sense. So let's go over here to the on, en, and ze. Ze, even though it's spelled in here on the text Z-E-I, ze is pronounced very similar to the English word say, which is a form of said. Underneath that is ik zal. So we already know ik is the personal pronoun I. Zal is very similar to shall, even though the translation says will. Shall is a similar word. So ik shall, ik zal, I shall, you help. I shall help you. Ye, so ye, you, family, to find. Je family to vinden. Ik shall, ik zal, je helpen je family to vinden. I shall help you find you to family. Perhaps it's a little rough, a little clunky, but making these associations is going to help. One other aspect that I want to include is that when I was taking Russian long, long ago, we were required to have a Russian to English dictionary so that if we had any questions, and of course, this was at the early days of the internet when things were online, but the resources that we have, with anything from all kinds of translation services on web pages to full on AI efforts to translate, it was still, a requirement for the class to have dictionaries to do this kind of translating. So consider that as an option. Good luck.